This is the Scoop Slam Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scoop Slam Podcast. Today, we're talking about Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor. I'm Micah, and I'm joined by my co-host, and he's just all zeked up and ready for some Ring of Honor. It's Ryan.
Yo, ready to be scoop slammed and talk about a little ROH? Let's get to it, man.
Yeah, this was a pretty good show. Is it kind of sad that Ring of Honor is a little more interesting than AEW's been for the past few weeks?
Where's that TV deal they were talking about?
I don't know. Tony says it's coming soon, but I mean, if the shows were like this, I'd be all right with it, but
Yeah, but you think if they had some news to report, they would announce it on the pay-per-view, right?
yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of news around this Ring of Honor show, but I'll start with probably the main thing is Johnathan Gresham is apparently seeking out of his contract, and so is Tully Blanchard. Well, Tully Blanchard's been cut. Johnathan Gresham is, I guess, in leeway.
Tully won't be missed, but Gresham, he is over to that audience. He's a talented wrestler. You could tell when he made his entrance that he was done with the company, though.
Is he over though? Is he?
They liked him. They cheered for him. They chanted his name. I heard a few chants.
I don't know, man. I mean, Gresham just doesn't bring anything to the table that is more impressive than the next guy to me. He's a good wrestler, but like, say if you look at him and you look at Claudio, what's the difference? Because Claudio's not a great promo either, but he is 6'4" and he's pretty jacked. I don't know. In my opinion, I would rather have Claudio than Gresham, me
But
personally.
ROH has never been about the size, man. Come on. Kevin Owens was a champ. Bryan Danielson was unbeatable for years in ROH. You don't have to be 6'5" to be ROH champion.
I mean, I'll give you that. I just feel like Gresham is not. Gresham doesn't connect with me because of his size. I don't know. And I know that's bad to say because there's guys that their personality can make you forget about it. Rey Mysterio, the aura, the matches that Rey Mysterio had made you forget about his size. Chris Benoit the same way, which Chris Benoit is obviously a little bigger. Even someone more recent, Adam Cole, the aura of Adam Cole, the person he is bigger than say his stature. But Johnathan Gresham, just what promos does he cut that are just amazing? You know what I mean? Like what cool angles has he been involved in? And I'm not big into the Ring of Honor stuff, so I don't know. But when I look at Gresham and when I hear people talk about Gresham, all I hear is, yeah, he's a good mat wrestler. AEW's got 1,000 of those. So what sets him apart from everybody else?
I see your point. Um, you either got to have an impressive look, like, Ultimate Warrior or somebody like that, or you got to be dynamite on the stick, man. And Gresham is not any of those at all. So I can see why you're not a fan of his, but for that audience, just being a good wrestler can get you pretty far in ROH.
I mean, that's fair. I do want to read the official report, and this comes from Fightful. So Gresham apparently met with Tony Khan to discuss his unhappiness with the direction and booking of his character. And while the conversation started off quiet,
Character? What character?
yeah, maybe the one that Tony's trying to build.
I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And while the convo started off quiet, it quickly turned heated to where everyone around could hear it. Gresham was able to speak with QT Marshall briefly, and Sanjay Dutt was a point of contact. His main frustration seems to be with Tony Khan and Gresham's character, and TK not being able to give Gresham any clear answers.
I don't know if I should touch that one. I don't know. I got some. This has been Leo Rush. It's been Big Swole. Now we got Johnathan Gresham. I don't know, man. I'm starting to see a pattern here with old TK.
I mean, you say what's off your chest.
I don't know, man. The way he handles the black talent could be a lot better. I mean, poor old Will Hobbs is mid card for life, even though he looks like that. I know that has nothing to do with ROH, but still, makes you question a few things. I don't know.
I mean, I can see your point. We talked about this a little bit on the phone. They don't have a black main eventer on the roster right now. I mean, yes, they do have black champions: Jade Cargill, Swerve Strickland, Keith Lee.
They're at a certain threshold. They haven't reached that ceiling. Well, they have reached that ceiling, and that ceiling isn't main event status. And they've had time, Micah. They've had 3 years now. Was it four? 4, 3? I think it's 3. They've had 3 years to build up somebody. They have not. They had plenty of guys on the roster that could have been something. You had a Will Hobbs. Why couldn't you give Will Hobbs a Wardlow push? Why couldn't you bring in Keith Lee, made him look like a star for one night, and then he's banished to Rampage for 6 months, and then he gets a token tag championship run? I mean, come on, man. They can do a lot more with their black talent. Max Caster. Max Caster gets one of the biggest reactions of the show every single week. What has he done, Micah? What's he done?
Like I said, I'll let you air your feelings. I see your point. Like I said, I vouch for Ricky Starks and Will Hobbs every single week that they should be doing more with them. They have younger stars, I think, like say a Jade or Ricky or Will Hobbs, but yet how are those people being displayed every week? In my eyes, it's not that great. I just had a whole rant about it on the last episode. I do want to say this part though. The general preferred process is that the talent speaks to one of the AEW coaches who are then in contact with Tony Khan. If the conversations are about booking, they have to be relayed to Tony Khan. The coaches pass on dozens of ideas from themselves or talent to Khan, who is then in charge of making those ideas a reality or deciding they don't fit. Those answers are then relayed back to the talent. For those asking about the names involved in that, it's usually the AEW coaches as well as Christopher Daniels, QT Marshall, Pat Buck, and then Mega and Sanjay Dutt also help out. And Tony Khan is in communication with those people at least 10 times a day. People backstage said that Gresham arrived heated as they feel Gresham was passionate about his beliefs in the direction of Ring of Honor, the brand, and himself. Said that he had a creative vision for his character and where things should go for him, and it differed from what Tony Khan's idea was. And Gresham didn't want to turn heel, but Ring of Honor had a bigger picture for him in Tony's eyes.
Hmm. So you blaming the backstage agents on this one? Shouldn't every talent have Tony Khan's number?
I think so. I from everything I've ever heard, it's easy to talk to him. I would think, from what I've heard, it's easier to get up with him than it is Vince, which obviously we know Vince is out now. But I don't. Everybody talks like he's just backstage and they can go talk to him at any moment.
But you remember the stories about Chavo getting ghosted by Tony Khan and Joey Janela having bad communication towards the end, and poor old Marco Stunt never got a call back. I mean, there's stories out there that TK's not as available as the smarts perceive him to be.
I mean, I understand, but does that fall more on Christopher Daniels or Tony Khan? Because Christopher Daniels is head of talent relations, from what I've heard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the buck stops with TK. If you got a problem, go to TK, man. If you can't get a hold of Tony Khan, something's wrong.
Yeah, I agree. He should definitely. I'm not saying that the blame is all his, but this obviously has not been an isolated incident. So I feel like something probably needs to start being reworked, whether that be on Tony's end or Christopher Daniels' end. Now, not to be that guy, are we really losing a lot with Gresham? Are we really losing a lot with Joey Janela and Marco Stunt and those people?
Well, to that audience, Gresham was over, man. You gotta give Gresham some kind of credit. He was the world champion. He didn't just become world champion from charity, man. He's a good wrestler.
I mean, I'll give you that. He's not a bad wrestler. That's not what I'm trying to say.
It's a bad loss for ROH.
Okay, I can see your point. But with all this going on, Tully apparently didn't show up. So
No.
but said that he's removed from AEW and Ring of Honor completely now. Not sure what happened there, but I didn't watch the pre-show. Did you watch the pre-show?
Not one bit.
Okay. So during the pre-show, that's when Prince Nana, which I've never heard of him, but apparently he's been to Ring of Honor before, announced that he had acquired Tully Blanchard's stable and it's now the Embassy. So, but now I don't know if Gresham is still a part of that or not. But I will run down the pre-show matches. Colt Cabana defeated Anthony Henry by pinfall. The Trust Busters, Ari Davari and Slim J defeated the Shinobi Shadow Squad. Say that 3 times fast. Um, the Embassy, which is Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony, defeated Alex Zane, Blake Christian, and Tony Deppen. And the last match on the pre-show, Willow Nightingale defeated Allison Kay by pinfall.
Mm. Brian Cage on the pre-show? I thought it was a big deal over there.
That's kind of what I thought too. I thought they were going to do more with him. But then again, all of the matches on the main card were title matches except for Roosh versus Dragon Lee. So maybe that was it.
That was great.
It was a good match, but we'll get there. So we'll go ahead and start from the top of the show. And this one kind of surprised me, but I think it was due to all the stuff we just talked about. Claudio Castagnoli versus Johnathan Gresham for the Ring of Honor World title. And I even wrote down here, Gresham came out with no mask or the embassy or the flag or anything behind him. I thought that was a little odd. This was a good mat wrestling match. Good start to the show, I thought. Kind of surprised me that the world title was going on first. Claudio swung him for a long time. And this announce team, I just want to give them props while I'm thinking about it. Boy, this was a breath of fresh air.
Um, who's the color guy? What's his? Is it Caprice?
I think Caprice's color and Ian Riccaboni is play by play.
I recognize Ian Riccaboni, but I've never heard Caprice actually on commentary, and he was really good.
He's been on Dynamite a few times, and I think he was on the Forbidden Door pay per view, maybe for the Ring of Honor tag team title match.
He's good.
Yeah, I really liked him.
What is he? What did he wrestle in ROH? I have no idea. Never heard of him like at all.
I hadn't either, but I kind of researched him a little bit after the show. He was a wrestler for Ring of Honor back in the day.
Okay. I saw that. Well, I heard he was talking on commentary about him being a tag wrestler. And I was wondering who his tag partner was.
That I didn't pick up on, but yeah, I did see he did wrestle for Ring of Honor because I had never heard of him either, and I thought they had somebody else on the or in the announced team, but I don't remember who it is now. So
They used to have Kevin Kelly. What happened to him? Is he just doing New Japan now?
I think so. Yeah, I wouldn't mind him here,
Yeah, he's good.
but the height difference was a little in this match.
It was jarring, man. I don't mean to body shame Gresham, but it like Claudio was swinging his little kid around, man.
Yeah, and I feel bad, like you said, because I mean I'm not 6 feet tall or anything like that, and I know that's something you can't control. It's just in matches like this, it really comes out. But Gresham did good for a smaller fighter. He did things that I noticed, like in UFC, like he was chopping the legs down, um, trying to take them down and stuff like that. That I did like that he played into that a little bit.
Yeah, that was nice. Felt realistic.
Yeah. Claudio eventually got him down on the mat and started landing the Blackpool Combat Club elbows. They looked kind of hokey at first, but then it kind of like one of Gresham's teeth fell out. I don't know if it was that or maybe gum.
Gotta be gone.
I hope. And then he just picked him up out of that Ricola bomb 1, 2, 3, and a new Ring of Honor World Champion. The crowd went crazy, but it was kind of flat. The ending
Yeah,
was.
yeah. I thought if they maybe would have had 5 more minutes, this could have been a really, really good match. It seemed short. Well, no pun intended, but it seemed like they could have given more to the match. I don't know. I believe it's because Gresham was a little PO'd about maybe where his character was going. Um, but overall, yeah, it was solid. It was a solid opener. Um, and Claudio won a world title finally. Jesus Christ! How long has he been wrestling? 20 years.
Something like that. He's somebody that's been overdue for one. I'll give him that. So it was a good moment. But I do agree with you. If they would have had just a little bit more time, but I definitely think the politics played into this one. Um, Kind of sad to see him go if that's his last match, but he was the champion for 8 months, and he defended it all over the world in a time that was kind of indifferent for Ring of Honor. So, if not, thank you, Jonathan Gresham, for all that you did.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out, though.
We'll move to the next segment. Daniel Garcia was in the back, and he cut a promo about being above the pure title, that it was garbage, and he didn't even want it. He wants to take it from Wheeler Yuta and destroy the title on AEW. Kind of odd, but this was an okay promo. Garcia is believable to me at times. Sometimes he's a little corny, but this was okay.
Uh, I don't like him, man. I don't like Garcia. The way he delivers his promos sounds a little too scripted. Now I know they're not scripting these guys, are they?
I think Tony hands them pointers, but that's about it.
Jesus. Okay.
Well, we'll move on. Next up was Dalton Castle and the Boys versus the champions, the Righteous, for the Ring of Honor 6-man tag titles. I've never even heard of the Righteous, but they kind of impressed me here, and so did Dalton Castle.
I fast forward. I was not interested.
Oh man,
I was not man. I saw the entrance, man. I fast forward. I like Dalton Castle. The boys are cool, but the righteous man, I had no interest in watching those guys. They look like Wyatt family ripoffs, man.
that's the first thing that popped into my head. They had a guy on here who I think Capri said kind of reminded him of Big Bubba Rogers, so I he was okay. Um, like you said, I don't know these guys. Dalton Castle, though, I've only seen him in that match he had at Battle of the Belts earlier this year against Gresham for the world title. He kind of grew on me here. His facials and like his reactions, just the stuff he does to play into the gimmick, I guess. Like when he stepped in the ring and one of the boys bent down so he would use him as a step, or like they make the throne for him. It works to me. I think it's so over the top that it works, and it's funny, but it's not like, oh, he's just a funny guy. He's not a good wrestler, or like him doing fake kicks is his whole gimmick. Like, he's just flamboyant and it works.
Yeah, I can see it translating to AEW.
Yeah. I would so much rather have him than say a Orange Cassidy or Danhausen, me personally, because when the bell rings, he can play into his gimmick, but his gimmick is not insulting.
Flamboyant. Yeah, he's it doesn't feel ROH to me, man. It feels a little too sports entertaining for ROH. I mean, I don't hate the gimmick. It's cool, but get him off ROH, man.
I see your point. I'd be fine with him being on Dynamite, though, me personally.
Yeah.
But this was a fun match. It got a little hokey in the middle because he was throwing the boys like over the top rope on them for a really long time. I thought that was a neat spot. Maybe just do it once or twice and that was it. But it was a fun match in the middle of the card. I think the right guys won. but they all kind of impressed me here because, like I said, I'd never heard of the Righteous, and this was the first match I kind of sat down and actually watched Dalton Castle. So, I mean, I did Castle, solid match, not much else to say.
All right. What else we got?
Next up, we had Sanjay, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh backstage. This is a decent promo. They're all in white, signifying a funeral in Indian culture, as tonight they will mark the date as the death of Samoa Joe. Wasn't a bad promo. I mean, it's kind of the same thing Jay's been talking about for the past like 3 months, so nothing crazy here.
Jay sounded good.
Yeah. My wife is so vehemently against Jay Lethal and just he's
What?
not interesting and
What?
he's just not good to her, and I don't get it. I love Jay Lethal.
I think Lethal's pretty good, man. He could be one of the top guys on Dynamite.
I agree.
He mic skills in ring. There's no reason why Jay Lethal couldn't be a big star, man.
Yeah, I totally agree. I like him.
Well, I can see why. One reason why he couldn't be a big.
Uh, I mean, I'm not gonna say it, but he's on Rampage for a reason.
Let's move on.
No, I'm just picking. Next up, we had Wheeler Yuta or challenger Daniel Garcia versus champion Wheeler Yuta for the Ring of Honor Pure title. This was a solid match between two young guys who I think have good futures. I'm a little higher on Garcia personally than Wheeler Yuta. I know you feel a little the other way, but I know you still don't love Yuta.
No.
This was a good mat wrestling match again. I think they really centered in on the culture of Ring of Honor here. They did a few. I don't know how to explain it. I guess just a few moves I liked. I wish I had wrote them down, but I was kind of just in the moment of watching the match. Um, I do want to mark though they had a standing slap fight in this match, and I will literally say every other match that had one because I think it was every single match had one of those. Whether it was elbows or slaps or kicks, they've got to sit there and stand in the middle of the ring and do it in every single match. It drives me insane.
Well, hold up now. Okay, so I can see why they did it in this match because closed fists are. I don't you get points off if you throw a closed fist in a pure champion.
Yes.
Okay, so I can see why they did it in this match, but the other matches are inexcusable. I like the concept of the title too. I like the extra rules and the judges and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it makes it interesting. It adds something else to it. So I would like to see more done with this when or if they keep doing whatever with Ring of Honor. But um the crowd got hot for this moment and they were kind of up for this match. Like I said though, the strikes make sense here, but in every single thing it starts to lose its appeal. Garcia was the only one to use one rope break, and Yuta picked up the win with an inventive roll up to retain. I mean, all in all, a solid match. There's not much else to say. Like you said, I like the idea of the pure title, but we'll see where it goes.
They had a good match, and I hate both those guys, but they had a good match.
I told you it would be solid because they're both similar styles and builds.
Yeah, it was good. I'm glad I watched that one.
Yeah. Next up, and this is one I told you specifically to watch.
Mmm.
Roosh versus Dragon Lee. And I know zip about these guys, but boy, this was good. It was the perfect lucha style match that didn't do spots constantly, but was still lucha. They were both selling, doing technical moves that made sense. It was classic. You could take this match back to 1996, 1997 WCW and it would have set the world on fire. And they didn't need to do 1,000 things to get there.
These guys killed each other, man. You can tell they're related because they laid some stuff in. They they have great chemistry too. This is probably my match of the night.
I don't know about that one, but
We'll talk about the main event, but I really this match with old Roosh and Dragon Lee. A lot of innovative spots in this match. Um, what was that move they did to the outside?
There was a few. I'm gonna kind of read down, and then whenever we get there, just pick that out. Um, Dragon Lee did a dive onto Roosh, who was on the table, and he missed it, and it landed more on the front of the table, and that was probably only the part of this match that kind of bothered me. They also did a stand and strike spot, just like Garcia and Yuta. I said I would mention it. There was a scary spot where it looked like Roosh was going for a big DDT, and Lee went for a backdrop, and Roosh landed like straight on his head. I kind of got worried there for a second, but everything else went good. They did a strike spot on the apron. This may be what you're talking about. That ended with a big boot from Lee, and then he just charged at Roosh, and Roosh threw him like an arm drag onto the
Yes.
mat. That was disgusting, but it
The
was
thud
great.
that it made, Jesus Christ, I wouldn't want to take that.
But it was, yeah, I liked it, and it's not too much. It's not over contrived, and he sold it because I think he almost got counted out because of it, which makes sense. There was a lot of good wrestling in this match. If you're listening to this and you didn't watch this match, go back and watch it. It was a good lucha match, and you'll understand what I mean by they didn't have to do 1,000 things to get there, where they were doing all sorts of hand holding flips and not selling anything. Um, Roosh picked up the win here after hitting the Bull's horns for a second time, and Roosh really impressed me here. I've never seen these guys before, but I can't heap enough praise on this match.
Crowd was into it too, and those chops, man, them chops they they had in the match were loud. Like, did you catch any of those chops?
Oh yeah, it's hard to miss.
They laid it in, man. This is a good match.
Yeah, this would have been my match of the night if it wasn't for that final tag team match.
All right.
But we'll get there soon enough. We'll move on to Serena Deeb versus Mercedes Martinez for the Ring of Honor Women's title. Did you watch this?
My finger slipped on the fast forward, but I didn't watch.
Oh
I didn't watch
man.
this either, man. I'm sorry. What happened?
I'll do a quick rundown. I like Serena Deeb, so I was kind of interested in this. Serena Deeb came in as the challenger, Mercedes Martinez as the champion. It started out with some solid mat wrestling, as I figured it would since Deeb was in here. Mercedes hit a nasty spine buster though. It was, ooh, and that's the kind of person I think Mercedes should be. She's a lot bigger than Deeb, so I think she played into that well. Serena hit a nice spear on the apron. It was, ooh, I wouldn't wanted to take that. Um, though at one point, well, this part was good. There was another top rope spot that was kind of, I thought she might have paralyzed her. Um, Mercedes perched Serena up on the top rope where they were both facing the crowd, and she got her in a sleeper hold, and then she tucked her legs into the top rope and leaned back. That was a really cool spot to me. I haven't seen that I can remember, and if I have seen it, it's been a long time at least. Even in this, they had one of those striking spots like they've had in every single match, except this time they were sitting down and they were like kicking each other. So I give them a little bit of props for being more inventive than the rest of the people, but like this is the third match in the row, and I think every other match has them. It aggravates me when everybody does it. I don't know.
Is this an ROH thing? I don't remember them doing this when I watched back in the day.
But they do it in AEW every single match too. It's like just the thing they have to do in every single match.
Oh, so it's an indie thing.
Oh man, I wouldn't say that. Like I said, they kind of went to do the same spot on the top rope where Mercedes was going to German suplex her off, and she did, and Deeb landed on her neck bad, and I got a little worried for a second, but she recovered. The match recovered. Mercedes locked in the Brass City Sleeper. Serena held on for a minute, but she was in the middle of the ring and had no choice but to tap. Mercedes retains. Solid match. It wasn't going to set the world on fire. Serena Deeb doesn't have a bad match, I'm convinced. So that's all I really got to say about it.
She just doesn't win any matches.
Yeah, I agree. And it makes me mad because I like her, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with her and Jade having a feud and Serena winning the TBS title because she's the professor, so she's going to teach Jade Cargill some lessons since Jade's so green.
You
But
should expose Jade.
okay, but Deeb doesn't have a bad match. I feel like she could carry Jade through a good match.
Well, do you ever remember that story of like William Regal having a match with Goldberg on Nitro and completely exposing Goldberg on live TV? He was
I
so
do
great,
remember.
but with William Regal. Why do you think that wouldn't happen with Jade, man?
I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't happen. I'm saying it's a good idea on paper.
Well, probably on paper, yeah, but get the belt.
Well, we'll move on. Next up, we had one that I was really hoping was going to be better. It wasn't bad. It just didn't live up to my expectations, I guess. We had challenger Jay Lethal versus champion
Mm.
Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor TV title. Um, this started out hot as it should after the past few weeks. They fought outside for a long time before they even got in the ring and started the match. Samoa Joe's over to this crowd and any crowd, yet he's never on TV. What did you think about it? I'll read some more in a minute, but I just kind of want to get your first thoughts.
Joe looked gassed, man. Like he looked like he was dying in the ring, man. But he Joe is not what he used to be in the ring, and it's pretty obvious when he's going against guys like Lethal or I mean, has Joe hasn't wrestled in what 3 months, 2 months?
Last match was what against Suzuki to win the title, or no, to defend it,
That was what 2 months ago.
something like that. Yeah, he's been out for a minute.
And ring shape is hard to get into, man. He can't just be taking 2 months off like that. He looked gassed. I thought the way they started it, because they were outside the ring for so long, that they were going with a quick finish. Finally, when the bell did ring, but yeah, it wasn't a bad match. It just wasn't 2006 Samoa Joe, you know.
Yeah, I guess I just thought these guys were gonna have like a 20-minute clinic, and the match went 12 after the bell rung.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I know they're older, but
No. Lethal's still really, really good. I think Joe is way past his prime though. His strength is is way more microphone at this point than in ring. Because he looked like that in his last run in NXT. Like he had a match with Cross, man, where he literally was gassed 2 minutes in, and they had an awful match. Samoa Joe he's old, man. He's older. This is what you should expect from Joe at this point.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say he hasn't lost a step. I still think he's good. Like it wasn't bad. I just don't know that Joe is 2008 Joe. And I'm not saying that's to be expected. It's what, 14 years later?
Yeah,
That's just life.
yeah.
But I don't know, for the build that this had, I was just expecting a little more. Um Joe was about to put Jay Lethal through the table, and then Satnam Singh comes out to help Jay. And like I said, they were out here for forever. And then the match finally started, and Satnam was able to attack Joe before the match because the bell hadn't rung. Um, and even before he throws him in, I forgot this part. They put his arm in a chair and then threw him into the turnbuckle, and then they finally rolled him in. I was fine with this being outside for a minute. It just hung around for too long.
Yeah, definitely so.
Um, they also did a chop exchange. Just wanted to say this is a good match. I don't want to say that it was bad. That's not what I mean. It was good classic moves from both guys. Joe went to do that, jumping. I can't think of what it's called. He did the enziguri in the corner. Um, and there was a neat spot where Joe went for a muscle buster and Jay flipped back off and then hit him with a lethal injection. Got a 2 count.
That was cool.
Yeah. I thought it was neat. It just fit into both of their styles, I guess. They kept on. Then Joe goes for another muscle buster, and Sanjay Dutt runs down and distracts the ref. As then Jay hit Joe with the title, and I thought the title might change hands, but no, only a 2 count. The crowd popped huge for the 2 count, though. Both of these guys are over. I don't want to discredit that. Just the match was. mm, Um, as Joe was recovering from the title shot, Jay is pretty much stalking him, waiting for the lethal injection. Joe then reversed it into a coquina clutch. They kept on, and Jay rolled him up, and then Joe kicked out, flipped him into another coquina clutch, and Jay tapped out as Joe retains. Solid match. I think if you cut the outside crap, let this go 5 minutes longer in the ring, maybe let Joe get a muscle buster in after he teased it so long, I think this would have been a little better to me. What'd you think?
It was okay. It was a good match. Um, Lethal's so good, man. I really wish they used him on AEW more. Um, at this point, this is who Samoa Joe is. So, solid match. Really not much else to say about it.
I agree. I think Jay Lethal definitely. We kind of talked about it at the top of the show. Them not having a main event black star. I think Jay Lethal fits that description. CM Punk and Jay Lethal could have a good feud. Jay Lethal and John Moxley could have a good match if it wasn't every single Moxley match that he ever has. Jay Lethal fits the mold to me to be a main event guy and somebody. I'm not even saying he has to win the championship, but he's somebody that can be competitive for it, in my eyes.
He's a guy you can just plug right in. Like you don't have to build up Jay Lethal. Everybody knows who Jay Lethal is in that audience. I mean, because that audience watched 2009 TNA. That audience watched 2015 ROH. You don't have to build up Jay Lethal, man. Jay Lethal could be that guy. Like you said, he could have a Moxley feud, but are they really gonna do it with Jay Lethal? I'm starting. He's been there what a year and a half at this point.
Think he debuted at what, All Out?
What was that? 2021?
Yeah. Clock's ticking, and
Yeah.
I think he could be inserted, like you said. I don't think he needs a build. I think he could be inserted right in. Don't feed him to Moxley the first week and be like, oh, he's a main event guy. No. Give him a few feuds, give him one or two against a top level guy. Say, I don't know, let him beat Adam Page. Let him beat a uh,
Adam.
Adam Cole. I'm trying to think who else they even have that are main stars.
Actually, no, because Lethal is a heel right now, so you can't really put him with Adam Cole. Um, who's a babyface they can put him up against that people care about?
Eddie, but do you make Eddie lose?
He's still feuding with Jericho.
Oh, God, don't remind me. Anyways, we'll move on. Jay could be plugged in there, but it's not for me to decide the little small details.
Yeah.
Um, Overall, solid match. We'll move on to probably one of the greatest tag team matches I've ever seen, and my for sure candidate for match of the night. Challengers: Mark and Jay Briscoe, the Briscoe brothers, versus FTR for the Ring of Honor tag team titles, 2 out of 3 falls match. So you're going to have to give me a minute because there was a lot wrote down for this one, and I think it's just best if we read it off and then we elaborate.
Go ahead.
All right. So early on, Dak spilled out to the floor as Doc Sampson came and checked on him. I was kind of worried that he actually got injured, but I don't know if it was a work or not. Um, Another chop exchange. Just wanted to mention that. So literally every match on this card. This started a little slow, but judging by the timing, you knew this one was going to go long. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match. They typically do go a little long, so I was fine with it. Um, even starting slow for them is still good wrestling. I don't mean that by any means. Um, Cash hit a nasty lariat to Mark on the apron as he was going for the bang bang on Dax. Jay ended up landing a Jay Driller not too long after that on Dax and got a close fall. Dax then got back up, regained his composure. He slung Dax into the turnbuckle, lifted him up into an electric chair, and then Mark came off the top for the Doomsday device. 1, 2, 3 for the first fall going to the Briscoes. That one kind of shocked me. We can take a little brief period in here. What'd you think about the beginning of this, and did it shock you for the Briscoes to get the first fall?
Nah, it didn't shock me they got the first fall. Man, Jay is really, really good. I know he's a former ROH champion, but he really impressed me in this match. Jay and old Dax. Doomsday device looked gnarly because I think Dax landed on his neck pretty badly. It was a good first 15 minutes. It did get a little long towards the end, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. Um, Dax was being abused during this period once they started the second match. He was in the ring for a long time, and they chopped his chest so many times he started bleeding from his chest.
I
That
never
was
seen that. I've never seen that.
I've never seen it either. I've seen guys like Bryan Danielson have really red chest, but oh my god. And then they just kept on. It was making me like sick to think about.
Yeah, he got his chest beat in. Jay, man, his hands are huge too. So he was chopping the bejesus out of those.
Oh yeah. Um, like I said, he was in the ring for a long time, but when he finally got that hot tag to Cash, it was it was
Textbook. It was perfect.
yes. Dax was close a lot of times to getting pinned, and the Briscoes eventually hit a redneck boogie, and he still managed to kick out. Um, it still was not too much. It wasn't unbelievable that, you hit Dax with like a train and he's still kicking out. He finally managed to build up steam, got a tag into Cash, and the crowd went nuts. Like I said, like you said, textbook hot tag. They know how to do it. These are two of the best tag teams in the world, if not the two best.
And the thing is, Micah, it's simple, man. You don't have to overbook this. It's simple tag team wrestling, man. And FTR are the best in the world at doing the little stuff, the stuff we really don't see anymore, the stuff that they've mastered. Um, FTR, man, they're at the top of their game right now.
Oh yeah, and the crowd was eating it up. They're so over right now. It's insane. Cash cleaned house and hit Mark with a brainbuster. 1, 2, no. Mark then started to mount a comeback, and Cash hit him with a gory special as Dax held Jay outside. Another close 2 count. The situation then dissolved into a giant brawl. Cash got clocked with the ring bell as Mark distracted the ref.
Mm,
Another close 2 count.
I didn't like. How you gonna take a ring bell to the face and kick out? Like, did that seem believable? I don't know about that.
I mean, I agree. It wasn't my favorite. I would have been fine if Dax broke that one up. But it was okay. Maybe if you do that for the first pin, that's one thing. It wasn't completely insulting to
Yeah,
me.
the match was so good we can overlook that.
Yeah. Mark then managed to land the froggy bow, but Dax saved it before they got the 3 count there. And see, that's what I'm saying. Right after that, Dax comes in and saves it. Maybe he hits him with a ring bell, then a froggy bow, then Dax comes in and saves it. But we'll move past that.
Yeah,
He then eventually takes out Mark by throwing him into the stairs, hops in the ring, and they landed a big rig 1, 2, 3, and now it's 1-1 going for the final fall. The big rig was good here,
yeah,
and it was completely out of the blue.
clean. Crowd was popped huge when he got him in the air, man.
Oh yeah, they knew what was coming.
Oh yeah, it reminded me of the 3D pop that people used to do back in the day. Like when you saw the 3D that was about to come and the crowd starts to chant 3D and then they explode. It, the crowd was hot all night, man. We got to point that out. The crowd, it was
Yeah,
no Lowell, Massachusetts.
I know. I wasn't expecting it to be that hot, but They were up for the whole show. Dax and Mark then moved to the apron, swinging punches and chops, and then Mark landed a stiff one as Dax fell down. He landed the blockbuster off the apron. That was a really cool spot. Um, Dax and Cash stopped another Doomsday device, and they started brawling with one another, and Dax accidentally clocks the ref. Then Jay lands the Jay Buster and would have won, but there was no ref to count. So then, maybe the Briscoes have something to be like, well, we were supposed to win. Jay and Mark then got Dax up for another Doomsday device, and Dax yells for Cash, and he comes to save it. I wondered, I wondered if that was planned.
I don't know. It looked a little silly because he could have just hit. He could have just hit one of the Briscoes when he had him in the electric chair, but he was just fumbling around, pretending like he was feeling around in the dark, calling out for Cash to come save him. Man, that looked a little hokey.
Yeah, it was definitely a little weird, but like you said earlier, the match was so good they get a pass.
Yeah.
As Cash then gets in the ring, he saves it. They get Jay in the ring attacking him, and they were kind of going back and forth. Jay would punch Dax and vice versa. He'd punch Cash and vice versa. They were all just swinging at each other. He then tried to run away and springboard. They caught him for a big rig. This was a really inventive way to do it. I thought it was cool. They go for the cover and they would have won, but the ref got in late to count, and so then he kicked out. Um, I think Caprice said that was the first person to ever kick out of the big rig, but it has an asterisk by it since the ref wasn't there.
Okay. Yeah.
The Briscoes recovered and managed to land another Doomsday device, but Cash comes in to break it up at the last moment. Dax and Jay started just throwing punches at each other, and Dax landed a nasty lariat only to land a 2 count. The Briscoes then lock in 2 chokes on FTR and they lock arms, not allowing the other one to tap out. I thought this was a really cool spot.
Yeah, they've done that before. Power of friendship stopped them from tapping out.
I've never seen it before, so I guess if you've seen it before, but I thought it was really cool. And the crowd was hot for this because they knew the finish was coming too. This was good. So then Dax managed to break it up and get to the ropes. The Briscoes plan another to be all end all move when Mark goes to the top, but Cash climbed up there after him and side suplexes him into one of the announce tables. The way they had structured this match, I can't even say it really and do it justice. The table was not even thought of. They had bumped it earlier and kind of put it sideways, but the match went on. You never even thought about the table being over there, or at least I didn't.
And I appreciate that they were done after that spot. Like you never saw them again after that. I like that. I don't like when they just shake off the table spot and continue for another 10 minutes after that. So and the spot looked great too. It was probably spot of the night, really, man.
Yeah, it was a good you completely forgot about the table. They both were done after that. They both landed flat into the table. You really cannot ask for a better table spot. So then Jay gets up and lands a Jay Driller, but Dax kicked out at 2.9, and you knew the finish was coming. They started brawling into the turnbuckle as they both climbed up. Jay started to pull ahead, and he knocks Dax off. Dax then builds up a head of steam, climbs back up, starts landing some punches. Then he takes him, lands a pile driver off the top rope. 1, 2, 3. First, I want to say this. The pile driver was nasty and it's kind of scary, but it was perfection. This match was great. If you did not watch this, if you can't watch the Roosh and Dragon Lee match, go back and watch this match. This is one of the greatest tag matches I've ever seen. Um, on a 10-star scale or whatever that I personally do, because I think 5 limits you too much. That's why they keep going to 6 and 7. But I gave it an 8.6. Match of the year.
The Dax pile driver spot, man. Let me just give that props first. I've never I don't remember the last time I seen a top rope pile driver, and Dax sold it perfectly. Cause the pin that he set Jay up with afterwards, perfect. It was realistic. He sold it like death, and so did Jay. However, however, I didn't think this was as good as their first match. So for me personally, I would give it a eight, eight, solid eight. It was
Okay.
oh man, it went 45 minutes. I can't invest into a 45 minute. If they would have shaved off 10 minutes, it would have been perfect. It would have been a great match. But the fact that it was 45 minutes, mm, I don't know. I can't give it higher than an eight.
I see your point. It definitely was long, but I was at least invested throughout. Like this was not one that I was like, "Oh my god, this match is still going. I'm fixing to fall asleep." This match was interesting the entire time. The characters in it, the way they kept the match interesting. They didn't have to do a million things at once to keep people interested. It was classic tag team wrestling. They abided by the count out rules. They used the tag rope. They weren't, the legal man wasn't confused on if he was or not. This is pretty much everything you could ask for in a tag team match with with the best tag team in the world and probably one of the top three, maybe five tag teams in the world.
Briscoes will get wasted on ROH though.
Oh, I agree. This right here, I was like, why are they not on AEW television? But to me, and I've seen that people say the same thing that you're saying that they like the first one better. To me, I like this one better than the first one, and it's probably one of, if not the greatest tag match of all time.
Wow,
My personal opinion.
wow. Over TLC 2, WrestleMania 17.
It's hard to say because that match is great in its own right, but FTR and the Briscoes didn't need a bunch of objects to get there for them. And I'm not saying that those guys did completely, it was inventive then. I'm just saying this was classic tag team wrestling other than one table spot and a ring bell.
Yeah, it wasn't. Man, it wasn't even their best 2 out of 3 falls match. They had a great one with DIY back in 2015, 2016. Um, I mean, the greatest tag match of all time, Micah. Come on, man.
I said, hold on, let me preface. I said the greatest tag match that I have seen personally. I didn't see the one with DIY, and I'm sure you could probably come up with a whole host of them. It's at least got a conversation to be in there, in my opinion.
It was better than their Bucks matches. I'll say that.
Yes, and people were saying that those were better, and I was like,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
oh heck no, 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 no.
No, this match was everything it needed to be from two top five tag teams in the world. FTR could not be better. Um, I also want to include at the end, the Blackpool Combat Club came and stared them down, and Dax cut a fiery promo. Uh, it was good. The whole show was good to me. This might be my ooh, it's at least in the conversation for pay-per-view of the year.
Stop it. WrestleMania night one. Stop it. Stop it.
I
I mean,
I said in the conversation.
okay, but we can start the conversation and end it after we bring up WrestleMania night one. It was a good show, Micah, but come on. Pay per view of the year? I don't know about that.
We'll get there at the end of the year when we compare. It's at least in my top three. I'll say that. I mean, none of the matches were bad, and the tag team match at the end was. I mean, I can't heap enough praise on it. I can't heap enough praise on FTR and the Briscoes. Wish the Briscoes were on AEW television. This was a good pay per view, despite what you want to say. It really sucks that they don't have a TV deal, or this just wasn't an AEW marketed thing.
Yeah. So now, where do they go from here? Because where are you going to build up all these feuds?
That's a great question. Because like the Briscoes and FTR thing was basically built online. So like at what point do you go, oh, okay, maybe we need to invest in Ring of Honor a little more?
FTR is on fire right now. I'm interested to see where they go from here. With what's it, 6 weeks left until the next AEW pay per view? What are you doing with FTR?
Yes,
FTR has to be on that next show.
I agree. They weren't on what was it? They weren't on Double or Nothing. Were they on Revolution? I don't think so.
No, no, I don't believe so. We saw him at that Dynamite we went to, but I don't think we
Yeah.
Revolution.
And see that's criminal to not have FTR on your pay-per-views. They are the best, bar none. I don't care about the Young Bucks, I don't care about the Usos, Street Profits, Lucha Brothers, I don't care. They are the best tag team in the world. Put them on every single show you have every night.
Well, Micah, you had the best tag team in the world at the pay per view. The Young Bucks, they have a pay per view match every pay per view. Well, the Young Bucks,
Man, I ain't hearing that.
Excalibur said they're the best tag team in the world.
I ain't hearing Excalibur either. You can't tell me FTR is not the best tag team in the world. I'm not hearing any other opinions.
Well, Tony Khan seems to not think so. He has him champion of ROH instead of his company. So, like, really the best tag team in the world? I don't know.
Well, we'll see for the future. But that was Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor 2022. Overall, we both kind of agree it was a really solid pay per view, and at least in the running for pay per view of the year.
Yeah, give it a rating.
Uh, I'll give it the main event rating 8.6.
Wow, wow. I don't think that's so far fetched actually, because there wasn't a bad match. Oh, well, that I saw there wasn't a bad match on the show. Um, I give it a 7.8. 7 point.
Okay.
It was good though. It breezed right by. There was nothing. There was no like a zombie tie-in like WWE paper or Afterbirth in the main event like AEW pay-per-views. So it was a positive show. Good show.
All right. Well, that'll conclude this special pay per view edition of the Scoop Slam podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Um, Make sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Scoop Slam Pod. We post exclusive updates like our predictions. If we're watching it live, we'll post live updates on our thoughts on the show, as soon as we're dropping an episode and maybe a day or two before they come out, we're going to let you know. We got some big plans coming up. I'm trying to reach out to some other people for some partnerships, so be on the lookout for those. Later this week, we do have the weekly review going over Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, maybe Rampage. And then the next week, we'll have our SummerSlam 2022 review where we talk all things SummerSlam. We may do a little bit of the Ric Flair last match. We will be in attendance,
Yeah.
so we may talk about that a little bit, especially the main event. Um, Once again, I'm Micah. He's Ryan. We appreciate you guys listening. I hope you have a good rest of your day.